Greetings, fellow nerdlings. Right, here we go. We should be live on Rumble. Let's have a little bit of a look here. Now, can everybody hear me? Please pop a little message into the chat if you can. All right. Well, that's a good start to Studio 64's first live stream. Welcome, fellow nerds. Let's have a little look here. We got Elon Musk. Yes, he does wonderful things with those rockets, doesn't he? He's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, well, if you're unacquainted with the channel, my name's David, and I've going to chat about some nerd stuff, science, space, and tech news. Excellent. Thank you, Ray 70s. Excellent stuff. All right, we're off to a good start. All right, let's start off with a bit of a laugh. I don't recommend doing this, but no, this is what's he doing? Who's this person? This is Yuo's Lab, the funny science man, and apparently he's in his basement doing nerd stuff, and he's blowing things up just because he can. Well, if you're going to do it, might as well enjoy yourself. That's what I say. I don't recommend blowing things up, but it's always good for entertainment. Yeah, I think the first thing we should look at is this thing from Australia, this story from Port Hedland in WA. And check this out. This is from the ABC in Australia. Where are we? That's if I don't know how mice work. I'm over here. All right. So ABC News in Australia. CrowdStrike outage avoided as software diversity sees Port Hedland Airport dodge the dreaded BSOD, the blue screen of death. Yeah, apparently they didn't have Microsoft in a lot of their stuff, but I love how in the news Microsoft switched the blame over to CrowdStrike very quickly. The word Microsoft disappeared from all the news stories. It was quite funny. But apparently, Port Hedland International Airport managed to escape the global outage caused by the CrowdStrike on July 19. The regional airport had a new diverse IT system installed, which contributed to it not being impacted by the outage. Yes, the airport shareholders have requested a report on all backups, hoping to continue to avoid similar outages in the future. So that's what everyone pretty much all over airports in the world saw. The good old Port Hedland in Australia never had a problem. Fascinating. Yeah, now while the world scrambled to find answers to reconnect the servers and calm delayed travellers during a global internet outage last month, Western Australia's Port Hedland International Airport kept on ticking. So Friday, 19th of July, about 3 p.m., there was a US-based cybersecurity company called CrowdStrike caused a global IT outage after a bad software update, but only on Windows machines. Macs and Linux machines were not affected. That's because Linux and Mac share the same ancestor, which is the Unix operating system. Fascinating. Yeah. So apparently the outage affected your banks, airlines, media companies, supermarkets, government agencies across the world. Interesting. Yeah. Now, about 1,600 kilometres north of Perth, staff at the Pilbara Towns Airport, a small but important fly-in, fly-out hub, that's for all the miners over in WA, had no idea the largest tech outage in history was unfolding. The chief executive, David Battig, said as part of a recent terminal redevelopment, new diversity in its IT systems had been installed. It was an additional cloud. Apparently, we switched to a German-based system, he said. Yes, the Germans wouldn't allow it. We're not having that here. Yes. We wouldn't have thought that a worldwide outage was possible, but as it turned out, the system we had in place actually addressed that issue. Yeah. And literally because their IT guys looked at it and said, I'm sorry, too many eggs in one basket. So they changed it, and excellent. Problem. It's the way it should be. It's like myself. I have some Microsoft machines, but I've got Linux machines as well. And I know that whatever happens, there'll always be a way for me to get online and do things. The first sign of trouble globally was when the airport's accountant, Rex Flay, who was visiting from Perth, noticed an issue with his invoicing system. He said he checked his email and saw there was some correspondence from the accounting software provider saying it was down. There you go. Within half an hour, it was pretty obvious that something significant had gone wrong. It made us realise that it was more than just a turn it off and turn it on issue. Yeah, I call it clown strike because all it took was one clown and the entire circus tent came down on everybody's head. Fascinating. Yeah, absolutely fascinating. Yeah, so head of the airport, Haley Vale, said as other systems failed, the airport seemed to be unscathed. I started to get a couple of messages through from some of the providers of our equipment in the terminal asking if we had any issues. I was like, we don't have a problem. Yes, I'm looking out the window. The car park was still working. Well, the car park, well, I guess with a little opening and closing gates, but geez, if the cars stop working in the car park, you may have a bit of a problem. People driving in and out. The baggage you can see on the CCTV, you can see the terminal. The baggage belt's still working, but there are still people being checked in. Yeah. So that's, as I say, that's the thing. It's not putting all your digital eggs in one basket, is it? No. And that's what people do have to understand. Relying on Microsoft too much, it can be an issue for you. Yeah, and this is important because the airport hosts freight servicing companies, charter and flight training facilities, heliport, and the Royal Flying Doctor Service. So people in Australia's outback, the Royal Flying Doctor Service flies out of there. So and we wondered what all the fuss was about around the world because it was business as usual. So what does that say? Yeah, they weren't aware we'd switched to a different system. Yeah, that's as I say, that to me is quite amazing actually. And as usual, I'll leave a link to these articles below the video as I do with the standalone videos, so you can pop in and check them out. Go for a bit of a deeper dive because there's a few embedded links there if you want to be beyond the main article. It's quite fascinating actually. Yeah, CrowdStrike outage avoided as software diversity sees Portland Airport dodge dreaded BSOD. So, moral of the story: make sure you have a backup. All right, what's next on the docket? Let's have a little look here. Here we go. Live science. Yeah. Physicists solve nuclear fusion mystery with mayonnaise. Well, this was quite entertaining. Yeah, the same physics that underlie mayonnaise could help physicists corral the ultra-hot plasma needed to produce nuclear fusion. Yeah. Gee, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. As I say, if you're not watching the live stream and you're watching you can watch the video afterwards as it's saved to the channel. And feel free. As I say, I'm not a scientist myself. I just enjoy all science and love sharing science, space, and tech news. So, I just absolutely love this stuff. If there's anybody out there who knows a hell of a lot more than I do, please feel free to weigh in. Very interesting. Yeah. Nuclear fusion technology could get a breakthrough from an unexpected place: mayonnaise. In a new study published in May in the journal Physical Review E, scientists plopped the creamy condiment into a churning wheel machine and set it whirling to see what conditions made it flow. Now, we use mayonnaise because it behaves like a solid, but when subjected to a pressure gradient, it starts to flow. Study lead author Arindam Banerjee, a mechanical engineer at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania, said in a statement. Interesting. Yes, elucidate the physics that occur at ultra-high temperature nuclear fusion reactors where they're having to create those extreme conditions. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Yeah, so these are, and I've done a couple of videos on the channel this week about nuclear fusion and how we're able to, all the components needed for nuclear fusion, we're gradually getting those individual components to work on their own. So eventually, it's not going to be long before we can put them all together and then see how they work as a unit. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch. It's absolutely amazing. Nuclear fusion forges helium from hydrogen at the hearts of stars. In theory, it could be the source of nearly limitless clean energy on Earth if the reaction could produce more energy than it requires to run. Yeah, so we haven't got that far yet, but it's still absolutely amazing. Now, that's a tall order. Star powered fusion occurs at 27 million degrees Fahrenheit or 15 million degrees Celsius, according to NASA, and a star's massive gravity forces hydrogen atoms together, overcoming the natural repulsion. On Earth, however, we don't have those crushing pressures, so human-made fusion reactors must run 10 times hotter than the sun. Well, good luck. Yes, now to reach these mind-melting temperatures, scientists use multiple approaches, including one called inertial confinement. In this process, physicists freeze pea-sized pellets of gas, typically a mix of heavy isotopes or versions of hydrogen, into metal capsules. Then they blast the pellets with lasers, which heats the gas to 400 million degrees Fahrenheit or 200 million degrees Celsius. Yes, much like me in a mankini. Yes, in a flash, and ideally it turns into a plasma where fusion can occur, according to the statement. Yes, unfortunately, the hydrogen gas wants to expand, causing the molten metal to explode before the hydrogen has time to fuse. Huh. This explosion occurs when the metal capsule enters an unstable phase and starts to flow. Interesting. Banerjee's team realized that molten metal behaves a lot like mayonnaise at lower temperatures. It can be elastic, meaning it bounces back when you push on it, or plastic, meaning it doesn't bounce back. Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? Really, really interesting. Yeah, it's how we can sort of come up with these. It's kind of like George Lucas when he was doing the original Star Wars. These guys don't have a working nuclear fusion generator, but to see how it works. But what they can do is use mayonnaise. It's like George Lucas with his original Star Wars. He wanted to make special effects, but he couldn't do it, so he had to experiment on his own to create his own special effects. And then the equivalent of the nuclear fusion reactor was Industrial Light and Magic, and it went on to do all these special effects that nobody could do. It's quite fascinating, really, isn't it? Yeah, that's amazing. All right, what else have we got? Let's have a quick little look here. All right. This is interesting. This is from Indy 100. The world's oldest pyramid, built 25,000 years ago, was not made by humans, archaeologists claim. Oh, okay. Well, let's see what this little video says. Not a lot, apparently. Vice reports that new research regarding Gunung Padang, a pyramid in Indonesia, may rewrite the history of human civilization. Okay. According to a team of researchers, the pyramid is at least 16,000 years old, making it approximately 10,000 years older than a pyramid in Egypt. Wow. Oldest pyramid in the world. Huh. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, there's been some really interesting archaeological discoveries lately. I've done some standalone videos on the on the channel, and you know it just amazes me. The stuff that we're still learning, and we seem to learn more and more every day for some reason, which I think is fantastic. Yeah, yeah. People think the prehistoric age was primitive, but this monument proves that's wrong. Fascinating. Fascinating. The oldest parts of the site are like 27,000 to 16,000 years of age. Huh. What are the pyramids? What, 2 to 4,000? Something, or maybe 5,000? That's interesting. Hmm. Very interesting indeed. Well, you can go away. There we go. Now, while Guinness World Records officially lists the Djoser Step Pyramid in Egypt as the world's oldest pyramid, around 2630 BC, one paper published in October claimed a layer of the Gunung Padang Pyramid in Indonesia was constructed as far back as 25,000 BC, though there has since been doubts as to whether the structure was ever man-made at all. In research led by Danny Hillman, Nata Jaja, apologies there, Danny, if I've mispronounced your name, of the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, and published in the Journal of Archaeological Prospection, the academics write that the pyramid's core consists of meticulously sculpted massive andesite lava, and that the oldest construction element of the pyramid likely originated as a natural lava hill before being sculpted and then architecturally enveloped. Interesting. They write, this study sheds light on advanced masonry skills dating back to the last glacial period. The finding challenges the conventional belief that human civilization and the development of advanced construction techniques emerged only with the advent of agriculture approximately 11,000 years ago. Yeah, we're always rewriting history. And I think this is a good way to rewrite history, not in the way a lot of people want to rewrite history. As in, something had happened last week and they changed the news items, headlines, and the articles on the internet. You ever notice that? That's why archive.org is a very important resource. If you find something that you wish to keep, go to archive.org, put the URL into it, and it'll save it. They take a screenshot of that original article. And if you come back in a few months' time and it's been completely rewritten with the same link, there's some shenanigans going on. Yeah, evidence from Gunung Padang and other sites, such as the Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, suggests that advanced construction practices were already present when agriculture had perhaps not yet been invented. Oh. The academics also claim that the builders must have possessed remarkable masonry capabilities, but one UK archaeologist has rubbished the paper, saying he's surprised it was published as is. Oh, okay. Bit of a meanie, isn't he? Oh dear. Now, great name, by the way. Flint Dibble. What a magnificent name. Well done, Flint Dibble's parents. From Cardiff University told the journal Nature that there's no clear evidence to suggest the buried layers were built by humans. Material rolling down a hill is going to, on average, orient itself, he said, adding that there's no evidence of working or anything to indicate it's man-made. Meanwhile, Bill Farley, an archaeologist at Southern Connecticut State University, is credited as saying the 27,000-year-old soil samples from Gunung Padang, although accurately dated, do not carry hallmarks of human activity, such as charcoal or bone fragments. And Nata Widaja, again, mispronounced the name, apologies, responded to the criticism by saying we're really open to the researchers around the world who would like to come to Indonesia and do some research program on Gunung Padang, while the co-editor of Archaeologica Prospección has confirmed an investigation has been launched into the paper. Interesting. Love to keep an eye. Well, have to keep an eye on that story. Oh, look, there's Uncle Elon. Oh, go back. Let's see Uncle Elon. Yes, he's that's, as I say, that would be definitely worth checking out and going over to Indonesia and getting some more verification, shall we say. That's very interesting indeed. Now, what have we got next? Let's have a look. Oh, here we go. NASA inspector. This is entertaining. NASA Inspector General gives damning assessment of Boeing's quality control in new report. Oh dear, Boeing is helping develop NASA's next generation mega rocket, but inspectors have found shortcomings in that work. Meanwhile, the company's Star Lemon, as I call it, spaceship waits in space. Yeah, this Artemis program for us to go to the moon did a standalone video on the rover, which was supposed to go and do a lot of reconnaissance work for the Artemis program. That's been canned, and they're selling off the spare parts. And I'm thinking, who are they selling the spare parts off to? Are they? Well, they got the Boeing scrapyard going. I think it was General Dynamics. Actually, I think was the contractor. It's a similar. Oh no, hang on. General Dynamics was the other one. Elon sent up a rocket with this supply capsule attached to it, and that was successful and got the supply capsule into orbit. Did a video on that as well, and then even that wasn't working properly. They eventually got it docked to the space station, but its rockets didn't work either. And as for Star Lemon, good God. Yeah, it just seems to be a lot. And as I keep saying, all these NASA contractors seem to be having real problems. I mean, if I was an American taxpayer, I'd be extremely upset. I'd be very upset because Elon was like 2 point, was it 2? No, 2.6 billion, I think. And initially Boeing got 4.6 billion. And Elon's been up and down and back and forth to the damn thing, down to the ISS and making supply runs and everything else. And I always found it hilarious that I think that they're going to have to get Uncle Elon to go up and rescue these poor bloody astronauts up there, which scares the hell out of me because I'm worried about them. Um, unless they eat humble pie and decide they're going to get Vladimir Putin to go and get him in a Soyuz capsule. That would be funny. Yes. Well, let's have a quick look here. Yeah, so Boeing's quality control in a new report. So this is NBC News. So ongoing issues with Boeing's Star-Lemon spaceship, as I call it, have been front and center this summer, but a new government report highlights other shortcomings of the company's aerospace work. Now, the report released Thursday by NASA's Office of the Inspector General calls into question Boeing's standards and quality control for its part in NASA's efforts to return astronauts to the moon. Now, in NASA's development of its next generation mega rocket known as the Space Launch System, it gave Boeing the contract to build the rocket system's powerful upper stage. But according to the report, Boeing's quality control systems fall short of NASA's requirements, and some known deficiencies have gone unaddressed. What's more, the workers on the project are not, as a whole, sufficiently experienced or well trained, according to the Inspector General. That brings me back to that DEI, which I absolutely hate. I don't care, as I've said, if you're a blue haired, bloody bisexual wombat and you identify as a green eyed something on Wednesdays, be an engineer first. You want to go down, you want to celebrate your diversity? Great. I'll go down to the pub and have a drink with you and I'll be, happy to call you my friend. But when it comes to building stuff like this, there's people's lives are at stake. Be an engineer first, then do the diversity thing. As I said, I don't care what color skin you are or whatever your sexual orientation is. Do the job first. The rest is just people being silly, as far as I'm concerned. You don't worry about that sort of stuff. You don't worry about, color of people's skin is irrelevant. It's the person, it's the character of the person that's important. And their skill set has to be there. Otherwise, you don't employ them. And it's nothing to do with bigotry, but you need to employ people who are competent. And let me give you a little example here. What we're looking at here is this is before Starliner from Boeing got off the ground. Have a look. What do you see? You ready? Oh, look, the window fell off. That's before it got off the damn ground. I mean, that's ridiculous. You got bits falling off it before the thing even gets in the air. Absolutely just frustrating. Yeah, absolutely frustrating. Yep. Yeah, so the report brings additional scrutiny to Boeing, which is already dealing with problems plaguing the first crewed flight of its Starlemon. Yeah, the mission was meant to be the final step before Boeing could begin routine flights to the International Space Station, but a helium leak with issues in the Starliner and issues with the Starliner's thrusters left two NASA astronauts who flew the capsule into space stuck in orbit for more than 2 months. It was only supposed to last 8 days. I love how the reports came out and said the helium leak stopped. We got that stopped. Yeah, because all the helium leaked out of it. You can't have a helium leak if there's no more helium left. Yeah, meanwhile, Boeing's aviation arm continues to deal with fallout after a door panel blew out on one of its 737 MAX planes in January. Yeah, what's the running joke? Anybody sitting, is anybody sitting next to an exit row? Any passengers? Can you please hold the door shut for the duration of the flight? That's how ridiculous it's getting. Now, the report from NASA's Inspector General has found the second stage of the Space Launch System, the part Boeing is responsible for, is significantly over budget. It blew through an original estimate of $962 million in 2017, and the project price tag for the work through 2025 is now $2.8 billion. The project is also years behind schedule. Boeing pushed back the delivery of the rocket stage from February 21 to April 2027. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is just busy billing NASA. Yeah. As for Boeing's alleged quality control practices, the NASA Inspector General said from 2021 to 2023, federal oversight officers issued 71 corrective action requests to address deficiencies in quality. Many of the requests took aim at Boeing's work at NASA's Michoud assembly facility in Louisiana. Quality control issues at Michoud are largely due to the lack of a sufficient number of trained and experienced aerospace workers at Boeing because they're firing the 50-year-old white men. Yeah, it's just ridiculous to me. I'll give anybody a go as long as they're a qualified engineer. They don't have to be a 50-year-old white man, but you need the 50-year-old white men around to train the new young ones that are up and coming. It's insane. And again, this, this is what happens, because they're worried about hurting people's feelings. I'm more worried about hurting the two astronauts. This bloody star lemon, you're worried about hurting people's feelings. I'm concerned that the astronauts are going to burn up in the atmosphere on the way back. That'll hurt more than bloody hurting people's feelings. It's ridiculous. Well, let's have a quick look here. What do we got now? What's next on the docket? Yes. China's effort to launch Starlink rival accidentally creates orbital debris field. Yes, a mishap from the Chinese rocket creates over 300 pieces of trackable debris, according to US Space Command, and the fragments might one day pose a danger to Starlink. Makes you wonder if it was deliberate. Fascinating. Yes, a rocket carrying satellites for China's version of Starlink accidentally broke apart in space, creating a debris field in Earth's orbit. The rocket, Long March 6A, took off on Tuesday, carrying the first 18 satellites in China's is that Qianfan 1,000 sail satellite constellation. Apologies to the entire country of China for mispronouncing that. No disrespect, as I said. I have a lot of time for the Chinese people and Chinese scientists, but as for the Chinese Communist Party, yes, which was previously known as G60. Although the satellites were successfully deployed, the rocket's upper stage appears to have split into numerous fragments, according to satellite tracking firms. Yes, on Thursday, US Space Command confirmed the breakup of the rocket, saying the incident has resulted in over 300 pieces of trackable debris in low Earth orbit. Yes, it's over on X. We're actively monitoring and analysing the breakup. Interesting. Huh. Wow. Yep, that's definitely a bit of a concern. Yes, now others, such as the satellite monitoring company Leo Labs, estimate the mishap created at least 700 fragments, potentially more than 900. The danger is that the debris is orbiting the Earth at around 800 kilometers. It could eventually descend to where both SpaceX's Starlink satellites and the International Space Station reside at 550 kilometers and 400 kilometers, respectively. The debris field might also endanger China's Qianfan satellites. That'll be a cell phone, wouldn't it? Yeah, Slingshot Aerospace, which tracks space debris, added that it's tracking over 50 pieces of space debris from the rocket, which poses a significant hazard to LEO, low Earth orbit, constellations below 800 kilometers in altitude. Yeah, so apparently they don't pose an immediate threat. They said that SpaceX estimates the fragments could remain in Earth orbit for decades. Yeah, I did a video on this, a standalone video about a company that's literally turning science fiction into science fact. Where is it? Yeah, it's on the channel. Sci-fi becomes reality. Spacecraft captures stunning views of mysterious metal object orbiting Earth, and it was a piece of space rubbish. And they were able to send up a ship, a remote-controlled ship, to maneuver that piece of space rubbish into the Earth's atmosphere so it can burn up. And in 1980, there was a sci-fi comedy by the name of Quark, and they literally flew around the galaxy collecting people's rubbish from Earth bases and everything else and throwing them into the atmospheres of planets to burn up. This was like 1978 and 1980, starring Richard Benjamin, Tim Thomason. Yeah, it's very, very, very amusing. But yeah, flying all over the galaxy collecting rubbish, and now we're actually doing it. Incredible. So I can see in 100 years that company will still be around, but they'll be doing the stuff that was like quark and collecting everyone's garbage. Yeah, I can imagine. I hope the astronauts aren't too messy with their rubbish. It's not difficult to throw beer cans out the airlock, is it? Oh, speaking of that, let's have a look. Speaking of the space station, decluttering the International Space Station 400 kilometers above Earth. I've found it interesting that every time they send a rocket up, they've got to get spare parts for the space toilet. Apparently, the urine recycling seems to keep breaking down. So I'm wondering if this should spell the International Space Station, also known as ISS. The ISS should be spelt with a silent P. Fascinating. There we go. We have NASA's astronaut Caleb Barron marks the first square for archaeological research on the ISS. Amazing. In short, an archaeological study is underway into how areas are used on the International Space Station. Researchers have found most spaces are not used in the way they were intended. The findings can help guide the design of future International Space Station modules. I love this. Your shed and the workbench may be a place of infinite mess where functionality gives way to clutter, but not on the edges of infinity itself. It appears astronauts face the same problem. The International Space Station archaeological project at Flinders University has been documenting several square metre sections of the ISS, spelled with a silent P, as they are used in orbit about 400 kilometres above the Earth. They're marked with adhesive tape. The sections include a kitchen table, workstation stations, the wall near the toilet, and which apparently is broken quite regularly, and the area designated for maintenance with daily photographs taken of the squares for 2 months. Yeah, there you go. Looks like the inside of my head. There's bits everywhere. Fascinating. Yeah, astronauts took daily photographs of the marked squares for research. Yeah. So what it used to be called back in the day was efficiency experts or something. They've even got them in space now. Yeah. Yes, Associate Professor Alice Gorman said archaeologists found areas on the ISS designated for certain tasks could not actually be used for their intended purposes. In this maintenance area, maintenance was the least common activity, she told ABC Radio Adelaide. The most common activity was storage, so people would put objects and items there to keep them fixed down. They would come back and find them in the same place and go on to use them in another part of the station. It was like a kind of halfway house, and no one knew that before. So there's Flinders University Associate Professor Alice Gorman. Yes, good old Alice. Yeah, taking ownership of space. Now, you may find in your workplace, a common area such as a bench or unused cupboard mysteriously falls under the ownership of a colleague due to the fact they store their belongings there. This is the case of the International Space Station 2, where a square surveyed near the latrine, an exercise area with no designated use, was utilised by one astronaut to store their toiletry bag. Human beings are absolutely fascinating. No wonder aliens don't come anywhere near us. I think I've said that before, and I'll say it again. It's like the SETI project, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and people can't figure out why we haven't found any aliens. Well, I know the reason why we haven't found any aliens. Human beings are the Jehovah's Witnesses of the universe, and the rest of the galaxy is pretending it's not home. Yeah, by putting their toiletry bag there and leaving it for so long, they actually made their own private space. They kind of invisibly or metaphorically demarcated it as their little bathroom or storage cupboard. So yes, they're marking their territory. One astronaut appeared to take ownership of an area with their toiletry bag. Oh, charming. Yeah. Now, such behaviour may sound unremarkable, perhaps even perfunctory to us gravity dwellers, but the research becomes useful when considering future designs. Yeah, because you've got to understand that the International Space Station isn't a huge area. Any veterans out there or current Navy personnel living on a submarine would understand this. Space and privacy are you can forget your privacy, but space is at a premium. And this is what the International Space Station is like a submarine in space. So every little square inch. Yeah. Yeah, it gives us an insight into what the crew actually do, and this is what we want to use to design better space stations for the future. Yeah, tackling gravity with Velcro. That's been an interesting one for the ISS. You know, post-it notes, absolutely amazing. Velcro bungee cords, clips, carabiners. I don't even know what that is. Carabiners and resealable plastic bags that keep objects in place instead of everything floating around. Excuse me. So it's all right for the astronauts to have resealable plastic bags, but as soon as they get a plastic bag from the shopping centre, someone gets you look like a homeless person. Fascinating. Yeah, I can't have a plastic bag because I'm in trouble. Yes, Miss Gorman said most people believed archaeology was entombed firmly in the past by analysing findings of fieldwork and dig sites. Most archaeologists don't get the opportunity to say, hey, mate, your house designed here 6,000 years ago. We've got some ideas how you could put these windows in a better place. But we do because we can say say to NASA, to other space agencies and big firms that design space station modules, we actually know some things through archaeology that will help you design a better space station so we get to impact the present. Yeah, well, the International Space Stations, I think, is coming up to end of life, I think, very soon. It's going to be interesting to see what the next ones are like. Well, as I say, anyone who's been on board a ship or particularly a submarine would know what what space is like, and I wonder how the Navy guys would react to people doing this or taking over individual spaces like that with a toiletry bag. Probably wouldn't go down too well. Yeah, it wouldn't go down well at all, I suspect. And what have we got? We've got the last one up here. What do we have? Ah, yes. This is interesting. A little bit of geology. Yes, first rocks recovered from Earth's mantle. The 4,106 feet long, 160 feet long sediment core could help science learn about magma, volcanoes, and more. Where was this one? This is over on Popular Science. Let's have a quick look here. Yeah, for the first time, an international team of scientists recovered a long section of rocks originated from the Earth's mantle. This layer just below the crust is the largest part of the planet's interior. So understanding can tell us a great deal about some of Earth's more explosive characteristics. This nearly continuous 4,160 feet or 1.2 or 1,268 meters of mantle rock is described in a study published in August 8 in the journal Science. The rocks reveal a more extensive history of melting in the recovered rocks than the team initially expected. So I'm assuming that would mean that it was obviously more volcanically active. Yes, interesting. Yes, the rocks were from a tectonic window, a second of the seabed, where the rocks from Earth's mantle were exposed along the mid-Atlantic ridge. This ridge along the floor of the Atlantic Ocean stretches 10,000 miles from the Arctic to the southern tip of Africa and is part of the longest mountain range on Earth. Now, according to NOAA, the mid-ocean ridges like this one are geologically important since they occur along the type of plate boundary where new ocean floor is created and the plates spread apart. Yes, the core was covered in the spring of 20 Expedition 399, building blocks of life, Atlantis Massive, aboard the ocean drilling vessel Joyda's Resolution. According to the team, the rocks will hopefully help unravel mysteries about the mantle's role in the origins of life on Earth and how volcanic activity is generated when parts of the mantle melt and how it drives the global cycles of crucial elements, including hydrogen and carbon. Very interesting indeed. Very, very interesting. That is absolutely amazing. So yes, we're able to look at the history of the planet, and then I'm assuming there's a lot that we can learn about modern tectonic activity too. It's quite fascinating, isn't it? Hmm. Well, that was very interesting. First live stream, and absolutely and positively, as I say, I'm not a scientist myself. I just love all science, whether it be Uncle Elon and his rockets, a bit of archaeology, or some silly idiot in his basement blowing things up. I find it quite fascinating. Oh, nothing like it. Everything from blowing things up in your basement to our friends at Boeing with the Star Lemon. and bits falling off it before it's even got off the ground. All right. Well, once again, my name is David. Thanks for joining me for our first Studio 64 live stream for Science, Space and Tech News. I shall see you next Saturday at 11 a.m. Australian time on the East Coast. And you can always watch the video afterwards if you wish, if you've missed the start of the live stream. And check out the daily videos, and we'll catch up more for some science, space and tech news. Excellent. Right. Thank you very much, Ray 70s. Excellent. And again, remember, it's only the first one. So things are going to get better from here. Yes. Hopefully this will work out better than the Starliner or the Star Lemon. All right. Take care, everybody. And as I always say, if you can't be good at it. And I shall see you all later. Bye-bye.
Please, Spock, do me a favor. And don't say it's fascinating.
No. But it is interesting.